Welcome, everyone. You're here for the first whistle stop on the To the People, For the People 2026 Democratic Roadshow here in Lafayette, Louisiana. From here, the roadshow will visit several other Louisiana communities, bringing the good news that this election cycle will finally have powerful slates of Democratic candidates for Senate and congressional offices, while the Republican, yay! While Republican candidates duke it out, we'll have our own agenda as we shepherd friends and neighbors to the polls to elect a new breed of representatives in Washington, D.C. Before we get to the main event today, I want to offer a few housekeeping announcements and reminders. Please make notes of your questions for both the Senate and congressional candidates, because you'll have an opportunity near the end of today's program to approach a microphone over there to my left, your right, to engage with the candidates on your own. We have a lot to get through, so please hold your questions until then. Next, I'd like to recognize any elected officials in the room. Would you please stand if anybody's here? Do we have anybody here yet? No, I guess we don't have any. Okay. Well, if they show up, let me know, okay? Let's see. The restrooms are down the hall this way, okay? Depending upon where you're seated, you may exit the auditorium through this door where these two handsome gentlemen are standing, okay? Or the door from which you entered, okay? And then you can go that way to the restrooms. Finally, I'm going to remind all you fine folks to either make like it's church, right? And either silence or turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. You do not want to be the one breaking the silence or disturbing the discourse with your particular ringtone. I have done that before, and it's not pleasant. All right, now that everyone has settled in and we are ready to begin, we'll start with a few quick updates from local activists who will bring you up to date on where we are in Lafayette on a few separate issues that impact us right here. First, I'm going to ask Michelle McFadden from the Louisiana Aid and the Attendant Coalition to come speak to us for a few minutes. Michelle?
Hi, everybody. I'm a volunteer with Louisiana Advocates for Immigrants in Detention. We've been, also known as LA Aid. We've been leading a coalition of community groups, including the Progressive Salon, Indivisible 337, Good Trouble 337, League of Women Voters Louisiana, Vote, Move the Mindset, and a few other organizations. Our first action was sending the mayor a letter and also to all the council members about, we listed our priorities for keeping our communities safe concerning ICE activities. We asked our government officials to hear the concerns directly from the affected communities. After receiving no response from that, we brought lots of speakers to a city council meeting and a parish council meeting asking for specific ordinances that would provide guardrails to keep our community safe during ongoing ICE activities. We even met privately with a couple councilmen who had no knowledge that ICE has had an active presence in the area for over a year now. The reason why it's not in the news is because they're not criminals, but we could go on about that. 11 days ago, we met with the sheriff and his team to discuss our concerns. It was a good meeting. We were excited that he showed up with his team, and we all agreed to continue the dialogue. You may wonder why so much work in the local community, why we're doing work in the local community, as our name says, immigrants in detention. But we believe it's important to keep our community members from ending up in detention. So we are determined to stand for those in our community who are extremely fearful of their families being separated, to stand up for the children who don't know if they will see their parents when they come home from school every day. Our organization continues to visit many people in detention every week, particularly Basile and Pine Prairie. The conditions are horrible in these institutions, and serious medical care is non-existent. We are part of Detention Alley, as you probably know. It goes through Texas, through Louisiana, and to Mississippi. As we hold the most people in detention, only second to Texas. We're not even a border state. Our current efforts are to stop the expansion of detention, because guess what? A new family detention center is in the works in Alexandria, a warehouse in Port Allen, and of course Angola Prison. We don't want more prisons. We always get questions, how can I help? By the way, I do have a flyer if you're interested in a local activity. So how can you help? Here's one way. Saturday, which is festival weekend, but it's Saturday morning, so you won't miss festival. 10 a.m., people are meeting at the Alexandria Airport to have a vigil concerning the family detention center that they're trying to build there. So I have flyers and details. The second, go to and support a Latino or Asian restaurant. I'm giving you an excuse to go out to eat. Tell them how much you love them and how important it is that they're in our community. They need to hear it. They are struggling because employees are fearful, and so it's hard to find the regular work there. And I think that's it, those two. Did I say three? Write your future legislature. Anyway, I just thank you for supporting us, all of you who are members of those organizations, and we will not stop, and we will continue to fight for our neighbors in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, how about Ame Dominique with Good Trouble 337 and Indivisible 337?
Hi, guys. Well, I'm going to reiterate and jump up right behind Michelle because it was also on my radar. Good Trouble 337 and Indivisible 337. We are planning to go to Alexandria on Saturday. I'm hoping we can caravan. If there are enough people interested, I'm calling tomorrow to find out what it costs. It wouldn't be a big van. It'd be like a 12-person van. But, you know, there'd be 12 of us that could go. But we will need some donations for that and a driver. So, y'all know how to reach me on Good Trouble. You can do that. We can see if, at the very least, we could have a caravan of several cars. We can meet and go to Alexandria and support them for their vigil. And there's a gathering after. So there's a vigil for about an hour at England Air Park. We'll be silent. And then we were going to walk the site, and then they are going to go to Compton Park for a gathering. So that's Saturday, April 25th. We would just miss a little bit of festival, right? Maybe half a day. The next thing on the agenda is May 1st, and y'all saw the flyers. It's our first community organization fair. It's going to be at roadshow Recreation Center on Eras Landry from 3 to 8. We've invited about 15, 20 organizations to come and set up tables. And it's a time for the community to come meet us, have one-on-one conversations, ask questions, find out what different organizations do, and also take action steps so we can help make the changes we want to bring about. The national groups, 50501, indivisible.org, they're saying the same thing that a lot of people are saying. We can't just keep having rallies. You know, we have to go a step beyond. And the next step beyond is engagement, one-on-one contact, meeting people, saying, you know, this is what we do. This is how you can help. Come be a part of us so that we can, in this very red area, know that we're not alone and come together.
Can you remind the time and date?
Yes, May 1st, which is a Friday. It also coincides with May Day, which is the major economic blackout day. No school, no shopping except local, no work, and to come together and meet each other one-on-one. So May 1st, Friday, roadshow, and it's 3 to 8. 3 p.m., so yeah, not 3 a.m., 3 p.m. And the next thing I want to announce, we don't have a flyer yet, we are going to have a shindig for democracy. It is going to be May 16th, which also happens to be Voter Day. It's going to be at the Sidecar. Horace Trahan is going to play for us, as well as some other musicians, and it is going to be from 3 to 6. Keep an eye out for a flyer. Let's go have some fun, let our hair down, dance, and get to know each other on a social level. Thank y'all.
Thank you, M.A. And if y'all don't realize it, M.A. is one of the of that group of 50501. If you don't realize it, the rally No Kings 3.0 attracted 8 million people across the country. So, and we had at least 500 people downtown at Prayshaw Unity Park. So. And finally, we have one more call to action from Dr. Samika, who represents VOTE, Voice of the Experience. And this one's coming up rapidly.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Samika Minor. I'm a chapter organizer at Voice of the Experience. Can you hear me now? No. Oh, what about now? Can you all hear me? All right, great. I'm sorry about that. My name is Dr. Samika Minor. I'm a chapter organizer at Voice of the Experience, also known as VOTE. In case you don't know who we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization who is dedicated to restoring the full human and civil rights to formerly and currently incarcerated individuals. We advocate for medical rights, employment rights, housing rights, and policy reform. We spend a lot of time at the state capitol either supporting or opposing policies that could positively or negatively impact incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals. We have monthly gatherings every third Thursdays at Trendy Spaces, located at 102 Carmel Drive in Conference Room 108, and that is from 6 p.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. Dinner is served, and dinner is served, and kids are welcome to attend. So I'm here today to do a call to action for everyone who's in attendance today to meet us at the Lafayette Consolidated Government Building on Tuesday, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. And the reason why is because, well, according to our Councilman Kenny Boudreaux, there is not a proposed ordinance to criminalize homelessness, right? But we want to make it known to our elected officials that we do not support any future ordinance proposals to criminalize homelessness. So again, I encourage everyone here to show up and let them know how we feel. And if you have any questions or concerns regarding this, please feel free to reach out to me directly at 337-267-6724, or you can always email me at Samika, and that is spelled S-A-M-I-K-A, at Voice of the Experienced, and I want to make sure I put the ED, voiceoftheexperienced.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samika. What's next, guys? The poorhouse back in the United States? Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies, for those updates. Now, I'm going to lay out for you how the program will proceed. First up will be the Senate candidates. You guys, come on up. You've got name tags on the table for you. First up will be the Senate candidates, who will each have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Each candidate will have the chance to respond to a series of questions, which they'll be asked in rotational order, for an additional 2 minutes. Okay, so you've got a 3-minute opening introduction. Each question you'll have 2 minutes for, and then for closing remarks, you'll have 3 minutes. So in other words, if you don't think you have done a good enough service to the question, one of the questions, you'll be able to include that in your closing remarks, okay? Where's our third candidate?
Good question.
Where is Mr. Crockett? I know is Mr. Crockett here? I thought he was outside. Somebody check and see if Mr. Crockett is here. Okay, if not, we'll go ahead with the 2 candidates we have. All right. Let's see. Once we've completed the second round, we will then ask our Senate candidates to rejoin the audience, and we'll get the congressional candidates up here. Then we'll follow the same sequence. They'll have the 3-minute introductory remarks, then they'll have 2 minutes to answer the questions, and again, 3-minute closing remarks. Right, then, after that, we'll get everybody up here. It'll be a real party. And you'll have an opportunity. Do you see that microphone on the lectern over there to my left? Okay. That's where we'll ask folks to line up to ask their individual questions of any of the candidates, right? They'll all be seated up here in front of us, and we'll be able to do it at that time. Okay. Let's see. And then that candidate dialogue will bring us to the end of today's program. Okay. So I'm going to start with, okay, Mr. Crockett. I don't see Mr. Crockett yet. So, okay, so that we don't have to rush as much as I thought. Okay. So, starting with Mr. Albares. How do you? Albares. Mr. Albares. Okay, we've got party primaries coming up for the first time in a long time, where we're all going to go to the polls in about a month to vote, right? And there's been a lot of talk this past year about one of our most important rights as U.S. citizens, access to the vote. But some believe that these rights are threatened. Please explain your reasons for supporting or opposing acts such as the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and share your opinions on such things as the SAVE and Save America Acts.
All right. To me first?
To you first. Oh, I am so glad. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. Okay, Nick is going to give his introductory remarks, and then...
And then we'll go to the question.
Where would I be without an audience to correct me? Okay, and then Mr. Davies will be able to give his introduction. So Nick, you go first.
All right, fantastic. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, great. Well, thank you all so much, Lafayette. It's just a blessing to be here today. My name is Nick Albares. I'm a husband and a father to 3 amazing, rambunctious kids that are here with us. Actually, could I have my family stand up? Would you all stand up? Thank you. You know, campaigning, it's a full-time job, and it's a full family job, so I'm blessed to have the support of my family. And look, my whole career has been dedicated to fighting for Louisiana families. So I've worked alongside nonprofit organizations and in government, from the Obama administration to John Bel Edwards administration, to fight for our families. Now look, my political philosophy is simple. Every person is important. Everyone here. Every person has dignity. And our public policies ought to reflect that. We are working to connect policy to real-world results so families can access reliable health care, stable housing, and social services when they need them. But today, Washington is completely broken, completely out of touch with people. It is leading and feeding chaos when people need care. I'm running for the Senate to protect health care access for the 300,000 Louisianans who will lose health coverage when Congress slashes Medicaid benefits, which go into effect January of 2027, after the midterm elections, conveniently. But we know that health care is on the ballot, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, or the Affordable Care Act. Now look, this is not just talk or hypothetical for me. I worked for Governor Edwards to expand Medicaid, and I fought to protect it in the legislature when Republicans tried to slash it. This is a fight that I've taken on before, and I'm ready to take it on again. I believe healthcare is a human right, and I'm going to go to Washington to make billionaires pay their fair share. When we ask billionaires, not ask, when we demand billionaires pay their fair share, then we can be specific about what we mean when we talk affordability. It means universal child care, universal paid family leave, universal health care. And I'm going to hold Washington accountable. I'm going to fight the corruption and the self-dealing that this administration has taken on. I'm going to propose on my first day a stock trading ban for members of Congress. And I am going to fight for the dignity of every person in this room and every person across Louisiana. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Davis, you have the same 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. To those of you that are new to this campaign and to the run for the Senate, I'll start first off by just introducing myself. I'm Jamie Davis, third generational row crop farmer from Tensas Parish. I grow cotton, corn, and soybeans on 3,200 acres. I'm married, 4 kids, 13 grandkids, 1 great-grand with 1 on the way in the oven being baked out right about now. We expecting that new bun to show up in about 4 months, and I'm excited as I can be. To start off, no different than none of you. I'm just a working guy with working morals. Everything that I've built in my life, I've built it with my hands like most of us. I'm not a guy that's been in the think tank of legislation and politics, even though I have served in office before. I've once served as parish vice president for the parish of Tensas. But to get down to the brass tacks of this, this forum is about building an establishment of Democrats again. Because regardless of what happened here between me and Nick and Gary, the ultimate goal is to remove the Republicans from power. And the only way we do that is by building a coalition. And I want everybody to know and understand that me and Nick, we are not here competing against ourselves. We are here to earn the trust of you guys, to make a decision on which one of these great 2 candidates you'll decide to send up against the Republicans. And of course, we both think that we're both the best candidate. I'll tell you why I'm the best candidate. I'm the best candidate because I can reach the areas of the North, the rural communities where Democrats have spent millions to try to find a candidate and know how to talk to rural community. Well, how do you talk to rural community? You go find a Democratic candidate from the rural community, and one that can cross over and works in the industry where a lot of crossover votes come from, in the agriculture industry. I am the candidate that is here to unite Louisiana Democrats, and we both are working together, and I'll tell you this last line. We both have agreed to help one another pass this primary.
Thank you, gentlemen. Boy, wouldn't that have been terrible if I'd have just skipped the introductions altogether? That was terrific. Okay, and I want to remind the gentlemen, as you see, we have some timekeepers down here, so keep an eye on the timekeepers. And if you don't, I will go all school mom on you, okay? And so please don't take offense if I have to. All right. So, okay, now let's get back to the questions. Okay, so the first one, as I started before, is on voting rights. Okay, we've got party primaries coming up. We're all going to go to the polls in about a month. A lot of talk this year about one of our important rights as a citizen, the access to vote. Some believe those rights are threatened. Please explain your reasons for supporting or opposing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and share your opinions on the Save and Save America Act, and that goes first to Mr. Albares.
Well, thank you for this important question. First of all, I 100% support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. It's something that we need to pass. John Lewis actually spoke at my graduation from graduate school at Georgetown University. And if you ever heard John Lewis speak, he's inspiring. And, he'll tell you the importance of getting in what kind of trouble? Good trouble. And so we need to get into good trouble here in Louisiana, because right now we have too many efforts trying to suppress and take away the right to vote. In a democracy, the barometer of the health of that democracy ought to be how the access to the ballot is going, right? And what do we see in terms of our voting rights? What do we see right now? We see efforts to put people on an inactive voting list. Okay, right now I would just want to do a quick public service announcement to say, everybody, make sure that you go to the Go Vote app or to go to the Secretary of State's website to make sure that you or family members are not on that inactive list, because they're trying to remove people from the rolls. That is critically important here in Louisiana. As it relates to the SAVE Act, I'm 100% opposed to that legislation. It is voter suppression, and it would impact women in particular, because what they're trying to do is make you have multiple forms of identification. Look, I don't know about you, but when I go to the polls, I pull out my ID card, I show it to them, I sign my name, and I vote. But what they're trying to say is your birth certificate has to match your ID. But how many women, and men sometimes as well, have changed their names where those things don't match up? So this is just another voter suppression tactic, and it's taken us backwards when we've fought hard, in the path of John Lewis and so many others who've blazed the trail for voting rights. We need to push back on these voter suppression tactics.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, same question.
Yes, I'm not just a no on the SAVE Act, but no disrespect, I'm a hell no on the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is simply a solution in search of a problem that's not there. And it's no different than the old days, the way they rolling back things to make it harder for people to have their common rights. Everybody deserves their right to vote, and we shouldn't make it harder to vote. Life now has gotten a whole lot easier. If I take you back in time, once upon a time we rode a horse to get where we're going. Once upon a time, we got into an old Model T, and then we even moved up to faster cars. But it seems like the Republicans want to take us back in time. So now here's what I got to say to that. If you want to take us back in time, you can just get in line to get voted out, because the people has to come together and organize and fight for it, because I'm going to fight, and I hope you join hands with us and fight also. And to the John Lewis Act, you don't even have to ask me a question about John Lewis. He's one of all of our mentors, and everybody talks about getting into good trouble. So it was just, and I'm honored to even be sitting here for men like John Lewis that put his life on the line for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Now, since there's only two of you, we're going to go back and forth. So, Mr. Davis,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
again are up,
Okay.
okay? And this question is about health care.
Okay.
It's no secret that Americans are hurting when it comes to affordable and accessible health care, and there's no lack of ideas out there. Folks have talked about transitioning the nation to universal health care or Medicare for all, supporting and improving the Affordable Care Act, and reinstating the federal subsidies for premiums, as well as several alternative plans that have yet to emerge fully fledged, right? What will you do as a U.S. Senator to help expand affordable health care to so many U.S. citizens who desperately need help?
Well, it's not just a lot of citizens that need the health care. I need it. My subsidies, when they disappeared, my health care insurance went from right at $680 or $690 to like $1485 that I'm paying. So I'm not one of those rich politicians that can afford to pay that kind of insurance, so I'm no different than y'all. So when it comes to health care, it is one of the most important ones to me. And my idea of health care is expanding on the ACAs, making sure that we can add the subsidies back, because that's very, very easily can be done if the people vote for it. And the next thing is to expand Medicaid and add funding for the states to be able to expand Medicaid for people that can't afford it. The one thing that I say about healthcare is no different than having the right to breathe the air that we all breathing. Everybody that's living someday will get sick. So why do we have to fight behind how we're going to have health care when it's no different than having a right to life? And that's the way I feel about health care. But yes, we need to bring back the subsidies and expand Medicaid so all will have a floor to stand on.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Albares, same question.
We need Medicare for all. We need health care that's universal. Health care is a human right. And we need to work diligently to realize health care as a human right. And so here's what I believe. Because I fought this fight, as I said, I fought to expand Medicaid here at the state level, and then to bring those reforms into perpetuity to make sure that they stood there. Because when we ran for re-election, Eddie Rispone said he wanted to freeze Medicaid. Y'all probably remember that. I did town halls around this state to tell people what that would mean. So we need to hold out our vision. We cannot lose sight of that vision of universal health care. That is necessary. And then we also need to work diligently on every step along that journey to expand Medicaid further, to expand Medicare further, to make sure that more people have access, and at the very bare minimum, to reverse the cuts that they're trying to ram through Congress right now. That have passed Congress, but that go into effect next year. We need to reverse those cuts. And so look, healthcare can be very complicated, but it's also very simple, because we need to ensure that every person, when they get sick, has access to the doctor. That when people need to have an operation, that they're not going to go bankrupt. And we do that by building upon the system that we have now with a vision towards true universal access, true universal health coverage. That's what I'm going to fight for day in, day out. And it's a fight that I've already been in and that I've accomplished much in terms of expanding Medicaid here in the state, and we're going to continue to do that at the federal level.
You've got your own cheering squad over there. Okay, Nick, can I call you Nick?
Yes.
Okay. The next question again goes to you, and it's on this round is on immigration reform. The U.S. has long considered diversity to be one of our greatest strengths. Yet we have struggled with realistic methods of dealing with the immigration issues for decades. We have of late witnessed horrific scenarios because of Congress's failure in this regard. As well, economists have recently reported that Social Security coffers will drain faster than previously predicted without the contributions of immigrants to the U.S. economy. As a junior senator, how would you approach this thorny question?
We are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of people from all over this planet. And, you know, being here in Acadiana, it reminds me of some of my ancestors who were Acadian people that were forced to migrate from Canada back to France, you know, in their case, and then back here to Louisiana. It's been a constant part of our story. We need an immigration system that takes into account the reality of people moving from place to place. There are economic realities of our continent, and there are social realities in our community. But as I started my remarks today, all of it must be founded in the principle of human dignity. And right now, what we have going on in our country is immigration policy that is degrading towards people and communities across the nation. To start out, we need to stop federal agents from walking through our streets using racial profiling, masked, and violating people's due process rights. We do not need to have federal agents murdering people in our streets. And so these are complex issues that need complex solutions, but we need comprehensive immigration reform where people can be brought out of the shadows and integrated into our communities. Because the reality is, people come here looking for opportunity. This is supposed to be the land of opportunity. And so we need to have policies in place that allow people to come here through an orderly process that does not disparage or discriminate, but realizes every person's dignity.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. Davis, can I call you Jamie, too?
Yes, please call me
Okay.
Jamie. That's what everybody calls me. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay. Jamie, same question.
Yes, ma'am. So here it is. Immigration is something that we all live with, whether we know it or like it or not. I want a show of hands of all Native Americans in the room right now. Look around. There's only 2 hands that went up. So more or less the point I'm trying to make here is that everybody sitting in this room is an immigrant, whether you like it or not. Whether your time has come and you've got enough years in your family heritage, but we all started here as immigrants, whether or not you like it or not. So one of the first things that I love to say about immigration is when has America gotten so good that we can't open our arms and welcome people that just want a better life like we all do? And then to get to the immigration part of it, I work in the ag industry, and I talk to farmers. I'm a row crop farmer, but the crawfish farmers had times getting their workers that come to gather their crawfish, all because of ICE. I work in the industry where sometimes the fertilizer delivery people are a lot sometimes are H-2A workers that coming in to work during the season, and those people are getting it. But lo and behold, I am so concerned about immigration till I have basically a Spanish-speaking person on our campaign staff so that I will be able to reach those people, because I want them to know that I am with them 100%. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jamie. And okay, back to you again. I'm going to ask you this time, both of you, about finance and affordability. Life is tough and getting tougher in regard to costs of living. Louisiana families struggle with basic necessities in the face of escalating costs of home insurance, unaffordable energy, and are losing their positioning within the American middle class. What measures would you promote in the U.S. Senate to address financial security and consumer protection, especially for Louisiana citizens?
Right. Okay. To start, of course, you're probably going to get tired of hearing me talking about farming, but I have to talk about where I cut my teeth. I'll give you an example of how monopolized our country has gotten. We have a weather event that was unexpected. We had frost, a late frost in North Louisiana, and killed hundreds of thousands of acres of corn. I was talking to my insurance agent about the corn that I lost, which was around 500 acres. And the adjuster told me that in hundreds of thousands of claims, 3 corn seed companies in all of those acreage. Can you imagine what I just said to you? There's only 3 companies that's selling corn to over 100,000 acres of farmers. This country has gotten to the point to where we've let the big fish eat up the little fish, and there's no competition anymore. I'm gonna take you back down on the school bus to when we was a few years younger. I know you all recall way back there were cellular phone companies on every block, different brands. We only have a couple of now. But the way I handle affordability is ending the monopoly in this country, because that's what it has turned to. And you make life better for people by adding jobs that are paid better, and when companies do better, the workers do better.
Thank you, Jamie. Nick, same question.
Yeah, this is a really important question, one that I think is on everyone's mind right now. And I think that we need to be really specific when we talk about affordability and policies that address that. So let's start with the minimum wage. The minimum wage is $7.25 in this country. And that sets the floor for wages around the country. And the minimum wage needs to be more than doubled. The state legislature just failed to pass a bill again, and Congress continues to shirk its duty. So it's incumbent upon us to pass a minimum wage that is more than double, and then we need to index it to inflation, which means that it goes up as cost of living goes up. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, as I shared earlier in my opening statement, we need to pass universal national child care so that every person, we know how much child care, if you've got kids or grandkids, how much child care costs and how much it takes for a family to just send their kids to a daycare. We need universal access to free child care across this country. And we need universal paid family leave so that when you have a child, you can stay at home during those formative years of that child's life. And look, people say, well, how do you pay for all this? If we demand that billionaires pay their fair share, these priorities are affordable. We also need to build more affordable housing. That's something that I've committed to throughout my career and have done. And then, of course, we need to do everything that we've talked about in the healthcare space to drive those costs down. And we need to address the insurance crisis through risk adjustment and reinsurance. And we could go on, but those are just some of the things we need to prioritize.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, we're going to start with Nick again, and we're going to ask you to continue in the same realm because the next question is about paid family and medical leave. Do you support publicly funded paid family and medical leave? If so, what will you do to support it in the U.S. Senate? If not, what alternative ideas do you have that might help Louisiana families provide care for children and elders?
So as I've shared, the answer is yes, I do support it, and it is a priority of mine. And not only is it a priority of mine, hypothetically, it's something that I've fought for. We, in the John Bel Edwards administration, put together a plan to provide paid family leave to state workers. And we looked at advancing it in the legislature. Now, it was something that the legislature consistently shot down and did not go for. But even going back to my days with the Louisiana Budget Project and the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, we looked at and worked and advocated for universal paid family leave policies. It's something that's critical because, look, the majority of brain development for children happens in the 0 to 3 age range. And so when parents are able to stay with kids during those formative years, it's really essential. And it helps, especially in those early months. And then we all know what happens if there's an elder or someone in your family that is sick or has a disability and needs that time to stay with them and to care for them. Our system ought to account for that because that's the reality of people day in, day out in families across the state of Louisiana. So this is a priority of mine. It's something I'm going to fight for, and it's not just hypothetical. I know it as a father of 3, how important it is that we can be with our kids, be with our loved ones through these hard times, whether it's advocating for people who are returning from the military. Oftentimes that's something that we can have as family leave as well. Through all these life instances to make sure that people can maintain their employment and have this coverage that's provided, that's what the richest nation on earth should be providing its citizens, universally.
Thank you, Nick. Jamie, same question.
Yes, as a business owner, I know what this means because, even though I was the business owner, my son was injured really badly in a farm accident where he lost his lower part of his left leg. So it took me away from the farm for months. But I can only imagine that if I didn't own that business, what it would have been like for somebody that's working on a job. And so that's why those type of issues that are people issues are important to me, because when you have your budget and your budget is based on your job and you work, you have to have that stability to have the income that's been flowing into your home, into your bank account all the time. An illness or a sickness shouldn't bankrupt a family. And that's why legislations like this is important to not just the person that the illness happens to, but it's important to maybe a mom that just had a baby or the dad. The dad may not can afford to float the family on its own. It needs that mother's income in order to be able to hold it down. And we as Americans has to come to a state that we have to be our brothers and sisters' keepers. And the way you do that is pass legislation so that it shows.
Okay, gentlemen, we're almost done. Couple more questions. Jamie?
Yes, ma'am.
This round is about reproductive health. Do you support federal legislation that would allow women with medical complications to access the care they need without threat of criminality against themselves or their doctors? Relatedly, where do you stand on fetal personhood?
First off, let's start off by saying that I am a man, and I know nothing about what women go through in their lives. I know nothing about y'all reproductive parts, and I ain't even trying to act like I do. So I try to stay in my lane. And my lane is a woman has the right to do whatever she wants with her body. And I don't even want to know what goes on, because I watch you beautiful creatures, and I had a mother that created me, and I watched her groom my siblings, And I know what it's like to have two sisters that's just a little younger than me that I grew up playing with, and we played baseball and basketball and football together as small kids. And then there come a point in time when my mom tells me, hey, you're going to have to quit playing tackle football with your sisters. So I know nothing about that. So I'm not going to even get in that lane with that. Now, when it comes to a woman having any issues with her body, she has to have health, and she has to have health care with her body. Now, I don't know about these special things that women have to have because I run from those things as a man. But I want the woman, my wife, my sisters, my grandbabies to have all of the health that they need to be prosperous women. If it comes to these procedures that y'all have to go through, all of the medical care, it needs to be done, and it needs to be covered, every bit of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Nick, same question.
The politicians should not be involved in personal medical decisions, period. And women's rights to reproductive health should be protected legislatively and in the Constitution. Because right now, what we're seeing, and you alluded to this in the question, is women are showing up with complications or having miscarriages, and they're not getting treatment in emergency departments. That should concern every person, no matter your belief. And Republicans claim to be pro-life. Well, why are they not advocating for universal paid family leave, universal child care, maternal health care, in the state where we have a maternal mortality crisis? We need to be fighting for the evidence-based policies that are protecting women, that are protecting women's health care, and that are doing what's necessary to protect every woman's right to bodily autonomy. And so that is something that I stand for. That is something that I'm going to fight for, and it's not just hypothetical for me. At Volunteers of America, I worked to develop a substance use treatment program for pregnant and parenting women, because substance use, unfortunately, is one of the largest drivers of maternal mortality and morbidity. And so we need to look at this from a multifaceted view, but it needs to start with respecting women and respecting their decisions. Those personal decisions should be between them, their healthcare provider, and if they choose, their faith leader. But that is a critically important issue to me, and it needs to be something that we prioritize.
Thank you, gentlemen. Apparently that's an important issue for a lot of the audience, too. Okay, this is the last question, okay? And it's kind of an open issue, right? In your opinion, something we have not covered, right? What are the most critical issues facing Louisiana and the nation in the next 4 years that we haven't discussed today? This will take us into your closing remarks, but I'd like to have 2 minutes from each of you on that, and we'll start with Nick.
So, we've talked about very specific policy issues, and I think all of those are important, and I think they're related to what I'm going to talk about right now. I think that we talk about healthcare, we also need to talk about societal health, because right now we are at a moment of division. I think we are at an inflection point as a country. I believe that we need to heal this country, because right now we're being driven apart by leaders who are afraid to stand up to the president. They are afraid to stand up for what we know is right. for basic dignity, decency, and respect. We need to return to a reality where we demand transparency and accountability and integrity from our leaders. And we need it both domestically and internationally. So, we didn't get into foreign policy, but right now our president is leading us into a reckless, impulsive war in Iran that's driving up all of our costs through rising fuel prices and rising prices across the board. We need to heal as a people, and it starts by telling the truth. It starts by accountability, and it starts by recognizing that everyone in our communities has dignity and deserves respect, so that we can talk to one another and address the real problems and get to solutions. That's what we need. We need to heal this land, and we need to come together through leaders who are going to lead.
Thank you. Jamie, same question.
Yes, I loved your answer, Nick. That was a great one. But what's the most critical thing that we hasn't talked about today so far in this is, people, if we don't vote in this next election, I do not want to see what Louisiana and the United States is going to turn to if we allow the Republicans to have their way again. We have so many people that are ignoring what's going on here, and I don't know, Nick, if you're experiencing the same thing that I am, but there are still people that has not heard of me, Nick, and Gary. Now, they know about the Republicans because they're on their TV every day, all day. But they don't know about the Democratic candidates. And it has gotten so bad to the point that there are even want to entice real Democrats to go and vote in a Republican primary to advance the guy that they like the worst or the best over those group of Republicans, as if we're not running. So where I see the most critical thing is if we don't vote in this election, God help us. And now, if I could drop the mic, I'd drop it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, that's it for the questions. So now you each have 3 minutes to wrap up, okay? And we'll start with you, Jamie.
Okay. All right, I got some notes for you that I want to.
Okay, good. That's what I was hoping.
So,
take a minute.
I'm here because I know what it means to fight against an unjust system for what you deserve. And I'm the only candidate ready to speak to rural and North Louisiana voters because I am one. I am here because I want to be sure that this state that I love, I leave a Louisiana that our grandkids and our kids deserve. When I saw the state of chaos and crisis across our nation and our state, I said, political connections or not, and it's not a right to fight for in Louisiana. The National Party knows the best path to power is in the South. And Democrats, we have a chance to steal this spotlight in November because they're not looking for us to come. They're not looking for us. But we will allow the Republicans to continue to fight, and we slip under the radar and keep having our town halls to where we introduce the Democratic candidates to the state of Louisiana. And once this primary is over, there will be a fighter that will advance to the general election in November. And that fighter that advanced in November will have the ability to go toe-to-toe with a weakened Republican primary winner, that all of their goods have been shown. And we will have every bullet of ammunition to shoot at them. But what we need is a unified Democratic Party behind us that's pushing us like a big ball of snow on a mountain that's falling off a tall peak. And once that ball of snow gets to rolling, there's nothing can stop it. A big blue wave is coming, and I've got the hook.
Tell it, Jamie. Nick, your turn.
So we're in serious times, folks. We have real challenges here in Louisiana. And I actually want to invite us, just for a moment as I close, a moment of prayer and a moment of silence. Today in Shreveport, you may have heard, but 8 children were shot and killed in a horrific tragedy. And our prayers are with those families today. And they're with Louisianans across the state who are struggling in many, many ways. Struggling to afford the basics and struggling to have leadership that cares about people. Right now, as I've shared, Republican candidates are afraid to stand up to Donald Trump. And Louisiana families are paying the price. We have 300,000 Louisianans whose health care is on the line. We need a candidate who has fought the fight to expand Medicaid, who has fought the fight to protect it, who has worked at the Louisiana State Capitol, who has worked at the United States Capitol and at the White House. I am ready to fight for you. I am ready to fight for Louisianans across this state. And I believe that our message of democratic values will win because, my friends, I feel like democratic values are shared values because everybody I know wants to walk out onto a safe street. Everyone I know wants health care that's affordable, and they don't want to go bankrupt when they have to have an operation. Every person wants to breathe clean air and drink clean water. Everyone wants to afford the basics when they want to go to the grocery store. We all want good jobs with living wages, and we want to send our kids to quality schools with teachers who are highly trained and well paid. I am going to fight for those things. And I'm honored to be the only candidate in this race who's been endorsed by labor because they know that I'm ready to fight for working families. I'm running for the U.S. Senate because I believe Louisianans deserve a policy expert who is ready to hit the ground running on day one. And I'm ready to join with all of you to go to every corner of this state to listen, to engage, to act, and deliver on policy results. Thank you all. I'm Nick Albares, number 1 on your ballot.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to ask our Senate candidates to rejoin the audience. I'm going to ask the congressional candidate, but don't go anywhere because these folks want to talk with y'all. We're going to ask the congressional candidates to come up and join us at the second table over here. All right, introductory remarks, and we are going to start with Tia.
Okay. There's an outlet there. Good afternoon, everyone. What does accountability mean for an elected official? Accountability means that you show up you listen, really listen to people, and deliver what it is your constituents need. I'm Tia LeBrun, and I intend to be accountable to all of District 3. I'm an educator, a mother, a proud member of the United Homa Nation, a wife, grandmother, and someone who has worked with families across South Louisiana for a few decades now. As an educator, I have a lot of compassion for what I've seen in our communities, and that's why I'm running for Congress. Congress is a place where we can affect change that will keep Louisiana a place where people can build a successful future. We've been overlooked by some of our elected officials. We need people to focus on the crises that are affecting our everyday lives here. The heightened insurance rates that we are all experiencing, wage stagnation, lack of opportunity for our working age people, and the inability for even seniors and veterans to live a fruitful life here in our state because of the expense. Our coast is eroding every day, and we need to hold industries accountable and put funds into protecting our coastlines. That will also help to mitigate some of the insurance costs we're facing here. So that's what I intend to do. I intend to represent us all in these times so that our families will not just survive, they will thrive, and our lives will be better for it. I'm Tia LeBrun, number 9 on your ballot, and thank you. She gave me the 30-second warning.
So paranoid about being yanked off.
Okay, next we'll ask Caleb. Caleb Walker. Is it okay if I call y'all by your first names?
It is perfectly fine.
Okay, next I'll ask Caleb to give his 3 minutes introductory.
Can everyone hear me? All right. So I was born and raised in Wisner, Louisiana, to 2 amazing and wonderful, loving parents, Charles and Lena Walker. I graduated from Franklin Parish High School in May of 2008, and 10 days later, I enlisted in the United States Army, where I served for 10 wonderful years, achieving the rank of Sergeant First Class and 1 combat tour to Afghanistan. However, due to some medical issues, I was forced to retire early. So after my service, God called me to move to Lafayette. I started out working as a personal shopper at Sam's Club. And with some hard work, some dedication, and some great mentoring, I was able to move up to department manager. So after that fun trip, I decided to go to school to further my education. I earned my degree in Christian leadership, and I am currently enrolled in the #1 community college in Louisiana, the South Louisiana Community College, where I am pursuing a degree in political science. I also had the pleasure of serving as the SGA president for SLCC, advocating for over 6,000 students. So the reason that I am running, because I want to bring community back to where it should be. And we can't spell community without unity. So my goal is to unify a country so that we can move forward. I'm Caleb with the C, so make sure on May 16th to vote for me.
Thank you, Caleb. And John, you're on.
Can you hear me? I usually don't need the microphone. My name is John Day, and I'm running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. I'd like to start by acknowledging the tragedy in Shreveport today and the victims and their families this is a domestic violence and, of course, a gun violence situation where the victims are overwhelmingly women and children. In a forum like this, I think it's important to offer our thoughts and our prayers, but I'd also like to offer our commitment to legislation and my commitment to vote and vote on legislation and sponsor legislation that protects these victims of violence. I would also like to sponsor and vote on legislation that takes the weapons out of the hands of people that perpetrate that violence. I am here to earn your vote, and I take a moment to talk about the power of the vote, the power contained in your vote. Most of the people in this room were not given the right to vote. It was hard-earned, marched on by millions, bled and died for by thousands. This is a power that is sacred and cannot be poll taxed. You must exercise your vote in the upcoming votes, and I would use this moment to ask you, while you consider your candidates, please consider bringing a friend. Please considering doubling your power, getting out there and finding someone to register the vote, and if you have to hold their hand to the poll, bring them with you. A little bit about me: I'm a husband, I'm a veteran, I'm a father, and a friend to many, an active community member. I spent 10 years in insurance, 10 years in healthcare, and 10 years in the private sector. In that time, I learned to translate the often complicated and on-purpose predatory language that is used in healthcare and insurance and business to keep people down, to make them confused and make them misinformed. I spent 30 years learning to translate that to my meemaw, to my friends, and to everybody in my churches and communities around me. I would like to say that my simple platform is Americans first. Not America first like you hear on the news, but Americans. I want to quickly list the Americans I'm talking about: natural-born citizens, naturalized citizens, non-citizens, DACA, justice-impacted people, and every immigrant who comes here to make this country better, that is a net boon on our economy and our finance, working hard to become an American. Those are all the Americans I'm talking about when I say put Americans first. My papa taught me about politics. He was a Democrat. That's why I'm a Democrat. He told me that Democrats were for the people. Americans first is different because it's for the people. My name is John Day. I'm here to earn your vote. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, candidates. I'm so sorry. Now, to get to the part that I obviously really like, the questions. Okay, so we're going to start in the same order, okay, for this first round, and this is on voting rights, okay? So Tia, starting with Tia, I'm going to go the same route for this first round. We'll go Tia, Caleb, then John. Voting rights. Do you support federal legislation such as the SAVE and Save America Acts that would require voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship, to register to vote, or to be able to vote on election day? Tia?
I do not favor the SAVE Act whatsoever. I'm more partial to supporting something like the John Lewis Voting Act, which would give more people the right to vote instead of fewer. I have changed my last name. My birth certificate and my driver's license do not match. I have a wonderful husband whose beautiful French name went very well with my French teacher personality, and it would be a shame if I had to change it back in order to be able to vote. And that is my fear for not only myself and others who have reached out because they just realized the name on their voter registration is their maiden name, but they've been married, they've never had a problem voting before, but who knows what's going to happen this year. So I am not for reducing anybody's use of their voice in their leadership. Thank you.
I do not support the SAVE Act. For one, it is very simple what we do now. We just go in and show our ID cards, sign our name, and we vote. they're definitely hiding something to where they're trying to make it to where it's getting harder to vote instead of easier, which is a natural right that we have as citizens. So any type of discrimination or anything that is hindering the vote, I will not approve or even entertain anything as your candidate if elected.
Thank you, Caleb. John?
I'm going to try to speak very simply. The SAVE Act is voter suppression, plain and simple. Look, plain and simple. Everyone in this room knows when we have high turnout, when the vote is out there and the general people get to just vote. When you just bring in the vote, we win. All right? And they know that. And so this is 100% an effort disguised as patriotism. We've all seen that. To disenfranchise, take rights from people like Tia and every other woman in this room, take your ability and make you apathetic to the voting process. All of this requires a fight, and we must fight to defeat efforts like the SAVE Act. I'd like to give a quick shout out, since this is being recorded, to Kareem Griffin, who I just bought a painting from of John Lewis. John Lewis has already been mentioned before today. The Voting Act, his name, amazing. We need to all support efforts to sponsor legislation and support legislation that increase the vote, the turnout, the ability which people can vote, the ease of which they can vote, and the ease of which it can be counted and regulated.
Thank you, candidates. The second round will begin with Caleb this time, and it also is on reproductive health. All right. Do you support federal legislation that would allow women with medical complications to access the care they need without threat of criminality against themselves or their doctors? And the second part is, relatedly, should states where abortion is currently legal continue to function as safe havens for pregnant patients in Louisiana who seek out-of-state abortions and reproductive health services?
So I support women's rights. And for the second part, I do feel that they should be covered if they have to go to another state. Being in the military, this is where it kind of started out with the having to go to different places to get the care that they needed. That is unacceptable. A woman knows what a woman needs, and if we're putting ourselves in that position to decide, we're all wrong. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Next is John. Same question.
Just to be clear, you asked specifically about reproductive health, and I want to say that I'm in favor of body autonomy. That is a very easy way of saying I support a woman's right to choose fully, unequivocally, full stop. I don't need fine print, okay? But body autonomy also includes trans rights and a lot of other people that are dealing with medical issues that need their own body autonomy, where it goes back to our single-payer health system, and those people, that's medical care that those people are entitled to, all right? And as far as what we can do about it, the second part of your question, obviously, we need to enshrine and codify into law the protections for all human dignity and body autonomy. It will be my priority in Congress.
Thank you, John. Tia, same question.
So, I am a mother of 4 girls and a grandmother of 3 girls, and so my stance is that we have to have bodily autonomy because medical decisions are such a personal, intimate decision that you have to make between a trained medical professional and the person receiving or potentially receiving any treatment. I do not want Kuyon Clay Higgins in my doctor's office with me. So I anticipate this being one of my top 3 issues because I think John has several more too. It can't just be one that's on the top of our list because we have so much that we have to fight for here. But I am fighting for my girls and your sisters and cousins. So we are all in this together. I think we're all on the same page with bodily autonomy is where we need to go.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're going to broaden the health care issue, and we're going to start with John this time. General health care. What will you do in Congress to preserve and expand affordable health care to all U.S. citizens? Do you support plans that would transition the nation to universal health care or Medicare for all? Do you support the preservation and improvement of the Affordable Care Act? Or do you support an alternative plan for providing health care? If you prefer an alternative, what broadly would that look like, and what current health care problems might it solve?
Healthcare, insurance, and government oversight are my three biggies, if you want to call them that. I spent years in healthcare trying to take care of folks on a waiver program. For those of you that don't know what that is, the state of Louisiana will give you $13, $14. You take that $13, $14 and pay someone $8, $9 and try to make your business in the between. That has to be expanded. Those wages are insane for the people that take care of them. I want to just shout out to every person that's ever worked doing that. Second, we can move to a single payer system. We can have universal health care. This is the richest country in the world. Stop letting them lie to you, okay? To do that, we must have a plan. I like some of the plans that say we must stop the bleeding and the cutting of Medicare, Medicaid, and the ACA. We must expand those direct access to health care to all Americans. But at the same time, we have to put a plan to put a single payer system. I once spoke to a colleague about this, and I said, look, we obviously need to get to a single payer system, but you just can't, it's hard. You got to move a lot of minds, you got to change a lot of laws, you got to do a lot of stuff in healthcare and insurance. But what we can do is we can have a long-sighted plan. I believe short-sightedness is just a huge part of the Venn diagram of what our government's problem is. And I believe with a long-sighted plan, we can move within a generation to a single-payer health system that works and serves every single person in this country.
Thank you, John. Tia, question, same question.
So, in Louisiana, we have a problem with access to health care. That needs to be a priority, making sure that rural communities have access to the health care centers that they need, the health care professionals that they need. There needs to be an expansion of access as we do grow the access to Medicare and the supplements for the ACA. Now, transitioning to a single payer system is going to be what the ultimate goal is. Just as a couple of us have already said today, we need to move to a single payer system. We have many models out there of how this can work and ways to improve upon what we have. I think one of the first things that should happen is a moratorium on lobbying from pharmaceutical and medical companies so that we can make decisions without their dollars blinding certain legislators. So that would be one of the first steps that I take, is to propose a moratorium on funding and lobbying from those organizations that benefit from the lack of access and the expensive healthcare system that we currently have.
Thank you, Tia. Okay, Caleb, same question.
So yes, we do need to have health care for all. So being in the military, it wasn't a problem for us. Everybody got to go to the doctor anytime they were sick. Well, being in the civilian world, I see a difference. People, they will decide, well, is it this time that I want to go, or do I save my $25 for this one? They shouldn't have to feel that way. If you're sick, you should go get checked out. So what my man John Day said, it's no reason that we cannot afford free health care for everyone. Now, to go over to the veteran side, we have to do some adjustments there. Getting an appointment with the VA is so hard, and especially for the mental side. So if you're going to talk to someone about, we say, suicide or anything, your appointments are 2 or 3 months out. Within that time frame, do you know the thoughts and the things that go through these soldiers and Marines' heads? It's a lot. So I think as far as health care for the VA, we really need to kind of prioritize that and focus on it. Let's go.
Thank you, Caleb. All right, the next category is about immigration, and we'll start with Tia this time. What is your overall view of immigration and immigration enforcement? Do you support a system for undocumented immigrants already in the country to earn legal status and to have a path to citizenship? Do you support abolition or reform of ICE?
I support abolition of ICE. I am a Native American. I fully support that anyone who comes here with the intention of bettering themselves or their families, their futures, is more than welcome to be here with everyone else who lives on one's native land. Immigration can be resolved in ways that we haven't been doing. For our backlogs to be cleared, we would need about 2,000 judges for about 2 years to clear the backlog. Once that's done, and while that's being implemented, we can reduce the red tape involved with certain citizenship pathways, such as DACA. Those children that were brought here know only this country. This is their home just like it's mine and yours. Their citizenship pathway should be very simple. We need to modernize our application systems. There are problems with getting their original documents, but if we accept electronic documents and provide resources to these folks, we can have it all cleared up, and we don't have to put people in concentration camps or detention centers.
Thank you. Caleb, same question.
So I think we should abolish ICE and put something in place that is going to do the job that it was supposed to. We just have to be able to organize and have a structured plan for it. And as far as immigration, I think everyone should have the opportunity to live here. Everyone should have the opportunity to live the American dream. However, they should go through the process like everyone else, and that's where I stand on immigration.
Thank you, Caleb. John?
Ooh, this one's hard for me to remain calm on and be smiling, not lose my temper, candidate for office. I'm going to speak very clearly. We absolutely need to abolish ICE, period. Now, I want to point out something Tia just said about the backlog. I wonder where we could get the money to hire all those judges. All right. I was out with farmers in Crowley a couple of weeks ago while they were putting together po' boys to try to raise money for radios. And they felt very strongly, these firemen in Crowley, about immigration. I feel very strongly too. I told you about Americans first. That includes everyone that's here needs a pathway to stay here. And everyone that wants to come here needs a pathway to get here. So we can all share the American dream. When did we forget the frickin' Statue of Liberty? When you look around the world and you want an American icon, it's the Statue of Liberty. And she stands for liberty, and she stands for justice, and she stands for immigration and bringing your tired, your yearning, your huddled masses. And for those of you, not you in this room, I don't think there's one, but for those of they, right, that would use a faith, Jesus liked immigrants, y'all. He was a big fan. Okay? I'm going to finish up by just saying we need to absolutely abolish ICE. I told those firefighters, I said, we take 1 or 2% of the ICE budget that's being wasted on Gestapo, that we could fund every single rural firefighter in this country.
Thank you, John. Okay, the next question is on climate change and resilience, and we're going to start with Caleb this time. Okay. Let's talk about what measures you would support to address environmental conditions, such as coastal degradation and loss, and human needs, such as affordable home insurance and adequate and affordable housing, that result from climate change that has produced stronger storms, more frequent tornadoes, larger, more dangerous fires, and more significant droughts. For example, do you think cuts to FEMA should be reversed and the agency strengthened to address climate change and weather disasters that are impacting Louisiana directly?
Yes, they should be reversed. There's no reason that we shouldn't provide the funds for FEMA. And as far as the coastline, we have to put some regulations back out there and change the name back to what it originally was, the Gulf of Mexico. Because with that name change, that just allowed them to go out there and play and do whatever they want to. What he said, dig, baby, dig, or drill, baby, drill. And it is really affecting us, and I don't understand why they think that global warming is something fake. It is happening before our eyes. So that would be my plan to go after the industry. Excuse me. That would be my plan.
Thank you, Caleb. John, you're next.
Climate change is real, y'all. Coastal restoration is incredibly important to the future of Louisiana's prosperity. I'm tired of seeing we are #1 in LNG and we were fighting for Mississippi with 49th in education. We shouldn't be the top leading energy producers in the U.S. when our children, our elderly, and our communities suffer because of these resource takers. These resource takers need to give a little bit more. I don't know how many of y'all play golf. I got plenty of golf courses. I'd like to see more parks. I'd like to see more walking trails. I'd like to see more subsidies for child health care. I'd like to see things that these companies can take just that 1% we're talking about taking from ICE. The same thing with these corporations. They can take a little bit and make our environment better and our future better. We need storm prevention that works. And is, again, that long-sighted stuff, generational. I would encourage every single person in this room, when they leave here, besides checking us out, to Google Just Imagine SWLA. This is a nonprofit organization that's been repeating over the state, and these people are building plans that are based on a 50-year minimum. We can cut ICE, again, and pay for FEMA. I want to answer Dr. Sally's question. FEMA needs to be strengthened by double. We need emergency responses that work for the people, and we can put the people back in charge of how we take care of our state and put Americans first.
Thank you, John. Tia, same question.
FEMA is absolutely necessary, to disaster mitigation processes nationwide. We cannot give block grants to states and expect them to do the same coordinated recovery and rescue operations that they do at the national level. We are 50th in everything. I don't want Jeff Landry to have a block grant to handle my rescue out from or my family's out in Grand Isle and Ile Jean Charles. That is not fiscally responsible. I also believe that we need a framework for a sustainable and really solid national disaster insurance for disaster-prone areas nationwide, so that we are sharing more of the burden of the cost when a disaster strikes. It's not just Louisiana that's suffering with insurance companies jumping ship. It's also California, Florida, Texas. We share these issues, and we need to share the burden so that all of us can pay a little less, and it stabilizes. We also need to invest in resilience and restorative infrastructure along our coastline. We have one little glass processing place in Louisiana now that is recycling glass and turning it into sand that can be put out on our beaches. We need to invest in things like that, innovations that can help us save ourselves.
Thank you, Tia. Okay, candidates, we're almost at the end of the questions. All right. This time, we're going to go to data privacy, surveillance, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. You know, the light stuff. Okay. And this time, we're going to start with John. Do you believe that recent federal efforts to assemble national databases containing information from multiple federal agencies risk the privacy and security of U.S. citizens, as our public and private sectors become more dependent upon artificial intelligence and technology in all facets of modern life? What do you think is needed to enhance cybersecurity, transparency, and privacy protections while also protecting rule of law, economic development, and communication systems?
Thank you for this question, Dr. Sally. This is something that goes back to, in my opinion, you might remember the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was sold as the Patriot Act so we could spy on Americans and check and see if they were terrorists, and that is a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. In addition to all of the different problems we're having with AI and data centers and general collection, one of the things I learned about at Voice of the Experience meeting the other night, vote, is the justice impacted folks. Check this out real quick, it's important. You can get your record expunged, you can have all these things done in the legal system, but if a Cambridge Analytics type of place was gathering data for a prison, you know, just helping them out, run the place, well, private companies are soon going to be able to buy that and then sell that data. So even the ability for someone who served their time and done those things is going to be impacted by employers who are buying data to check on these employees so they can screen them out, which they should be a protected class. I want to put that out there too. So I am absolutely against this kind of data harvesting, and what we need specifically is laws, legislation. The problem is this legislation takes a while to catch up with the actual things that are happening. You have companies like Anthropic who came out and said, hey, look, we're not going to give you autonomous weapons. We're not going to help you spy on people. The government moved Anthropic out of the way. All right? That's basically the long and short of it, is what I wanted you to go to Congress for, is to get up there, understand what they're trying to do, and come back and tell you about it. And then not represent a party or what I think, but find out what the constituents of the 3rd District want in their lives, the protection and the future for their children, their families, and then take that back to Congress on my back as a bill.
Thank you, John. Caleb, you're next.
So, yes, we need to be protected. However, being a part of the younger generation, I don't think we should be that scared of AI because let's all be serious. I know we use ChatGPT every day to assist. It's just about being able to get educated about it. We had a professor come speak to the student body presidents at LSU, and he teaches AI. Now, some of the stuff we should be concerned about, like Mr. Day said, there's really no regulation, so they're just playing freely for what they want to do. So I do agree with that's the first thing we need to do with AI. But I don't think as a society we need to be fearful for it. Once we learn the tricks and the trades of it, it would definitely help us. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Caleb. Tia?
Okay, your question was multi-part. Can you repeat it for me, just so
I
I'm
will
sure?
certainly,
Okay.
it was a long question.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Okay, do you believe that recent federal efforts to assemble national databases containing information from multiple federal agencies risk the privacy and security of U.S. citizens as our public and private sectors become more dependent upon artificial intelligence and technology in all facets of modern life? What do you think is needed to enhance cybersecurity, transparency, and privacy protections while protecting rule of law, economic development, and communication systems?
So with AI, people should have proprietary rights over their voice and their likeness. That is something that is going to protect individual citizens. We have already seen AI with regard to people creating very, very uncomfortable videos with people who had not taken part in such things and sharing that with others. We have to protect ourselves, and to do that, we have to have proprietary rights over our voices and our likenesses that can be tampered with via AI. So that is one of my priorities around AI. Also, protecting citizens' privacy is essential. We already have a constitutional basis for that. That needs to be reinforced with legislation and regulation around AI companies. Also, the data centers that they need to keep this growing, those should not be in Louisiana. We should not be footing the bill for the growth of AI. And we have to be careful that we are ensuring its collaboration with humankind and not just overtaking certain avenues where we need humans still involved. But having said that, my biggest priority is to make sure that we have some sort of standing where AI and productions of ourselves is concerned.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, we've reached the time where it's a more open question. The final question is about critical issues, okay? This is about something that I haven't asked you before, okay? In your opinion, what are the most critical issues facing Louisiana and the nation in the next 4 years? If you're sent to Congress, what legislation would you propose to address these issues? And we'll start with Caleb.
I apologize. So the critical issue is our education system. They are dismantling it right before our eyes, and we have to put a stop to it. So the first legislation that I would be seeking is to give teachers tax exempt on the first $50,000 that they make. I would also make sure that the teachers are protected while they're at school so that, hey, they can teach. Believe it or not, the teachers are really the backbone of this country. and we should treat them as so. So I feel that the tax exempt would kind of weed out the ones that we really want to stay and the ones that don't. Also, we have to do something about this unemployment rate that is going on in the African American community. It is getting out of hand. Louisiana has almost about 10% of African Americans unemployed. That's staggering. So we have to get into these communities to see what is being left out in the African American community after election. So that's the end of my statement.
Okay, thank you, Caleb. Tia, you're next.
The most critical issues in our state and country that weren't addressed already by our questions, I would agree that one of them is our education system, but I would say that my focus would be on making post-secondary education, trades, and community college accessible and affordable. Our students need to be able to get some sort of professional development in order to make their career a success early on. We need to have those trade schools and community colleges available to them. So reducing by a great percentage or providing free university and trade education at that level would be a priority of mine. Also, some things that came up during the Senate question answer time, the paid family leave and medical leave for workers, that is really essential for us to have, and the universal child care as well. That will ensure that every family is able to have someone who can go and work without going into crazy debt, which makes no sense to people when you're making less than your child care if you have 4 young children. So those are my critical issues: paid family leave and medical leave, universal child care, and affordability of post-secondary ed, or 3.
Thank you, Tia. John, you're going to close us out with these questions.
My critical issues are Donald J. Trump and Clay Higgins. Okay? These two men in tandem are the reason we have problems in education. It's the reason we can't pay our teachers. It's the reason we can't afford health care. It's the reason that everybody in here has an insurance bill. So, as a U.S. congressman, I will work to reverse Project 2025 and every single thing in it. I will work to stop the ballooning budget deficit from 19 trillion to almost 40 trillion as we speak right now. It will ruin any future of being able to afford anything. I also will file 3 things, if I can, on my first day. 1, the impeachment and removal of Donald J. Trump. These people need to be charged, convicted, and removed. The commander and thief is just that. This is the largest grift in American history, and we're watching it happen. Number 2, I'm going there to fight for the least among us. That means I am going to try to codify or enshrine into law protections for human dignity and body autonomy. Lastly, I'm going to work with my colleagues the best I can to undo this so-called big, beautiful bill. Because in that lies all of our answers to fund the things we need as the richest country in the world, and how we can take the Article 1 power and put it back in Congress. I want to change things. I'm not a strongly worded letter kind of Democrat. I'm going up there to fight and make a difference right now.
Thank you, John. Okay, now we've done with the questions, and now we're on to your closing remarks, okay? So we're going to go back to our original order. We're going to start with Tia and work down the table. You have 3 minutes to give us your closing remarks. If there was something you didn't get time to fully articulate during the questions, go ahead and use that too. 3 minutes each.
So teachers don't like to sit very long. This afternoon, you've heard a lot about policies, positions, and priorities. At the end of the day, this campaign is about people. We need people who can relate to everyday community members to be representing those everyday community members. We need to focus on the things that make Louisiana, our home, livable and lovable. Our culture, our land, our economy. We have such a special place here, and all of those 3 things tie together with the priorities that we've talked about: coastal erosion, enabling young people to have opportunities to build careers here, not just make it, not just get by. And we have to address the things that are possibly making us unable to stay in our homes because of affordability. So I'm Tia LeBrun, number 9 on your ballot, and I intend to go and fight for everyday people all over District 3, for our environment, for our traditions. Thank you for being here today and giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Thank you, Tia. Caleb, closing remarks. 3 minutes.
So I'm gonna stand up because I'm a little short. So we all know that we have a problem going on in this country. And our biggest weapon is going to be, we have to get out and vote. We have to go into the colleges and the universities, catch the seniors as they're about to graduate. This will be, for some of us, the most important election of our lifetime. So we need to do so. We need to act so. So by selecting me, I know that I'm going to wake up every day to fight for everyone in District 3. Not just a certain group, not just a certain party, for everyone. So on May 16th, vote Caleb with a C for District 3, and I'm number 10 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. John, bring us home.
Well, I'm going to stand up because they did. I'd like to take a few seconds, even on my own time, to thank Tia and Caleb for being here. Isn't it wonderful to have so many well-qualified Democrats here fighting to represent you? And I want to pledge now that no matter who wins, we're all going to unite together to make sure that we can flip this seat blue. All right? Now, I want you to take away 3 things from my closing remarks. One is hope. One of the things that I find that will kill us, kill our movement, kill our progression is apathy and infighting. We need to get back to hope. Anybody remember 06 or 08? That was a hope-filled campaign. We've got a campaign right now. You see it in the news. There's hope in the air. You could be sitting in a state that they're not in a seat that they're not talking about. Clay doesn't even know we're coming. They talk about the vulnerable seats. He doesn't even know he's vulnerable. One of us is going to get him. I promise. All right? Now, the other thing I want you to take away is we need a pathway to victory. This is where I'm going to try to set myself apart. I can win. I'm building a coalition. I'm the state-endorsed Democrat. I'm the LGBTQ-endorsed Democrat. I'm working with the NAACP in 2 different communities. I'm picking up the central trades and unions, including the Southwest Builders Association, AFL-CIOs, not far behind. I'm in churches and communities, streets, and barbershops, building a coalition. I'm building a coalition with volunteers and staff. We're opening an office in Lake Charles next week, an office in Lafayette, God willing, right after the primaries. I'm working full-time every day. I stopped doing everything else I was doing, handed my business to my partner, let my wife continue to have the amazing career my baby adults are doing college and working. I get up every single day to go from every little part of Louisiana's 3rd District to let people know I'm fighting for them. And the last thing is I can win because I'm going to build roads and bridges. Not only am I in all those communities, my pawpaw built roads and bridges, and I'm out in the VFWs, and I'm sneaking into the Republican Women's Luncheon. I'm doing anything I can because guess what? 220,000 people voted for Clay Higgins in the last election, about 100,000 for the combined Democrats. We're going to have a lower turnout unless we can really modify the narrative, but we need about 126,000 votes. Somebody up here does to win. And we're going to need to change hearts and change minds, and I promise you, I'm out there in those rice fields. I'm out there and I'm listening to these people, and they are pissed off. They are angry, they are upset, and they want change. And they'll take a good Democrat over these fools that we've got. My name's John Day, and I'll leave you with this. Last thing, please consider what you deserve. What you deserve, what your children deserve, what your parents deserve. You deserve a fighter. You deserve someone that could win. Please vote for the day you deserve.
Thank you, John. Okay, let's hear it for our congressional candidates. And let's get the Senate candidates back up here. Now it's time for y'all to talk to them. Come on, fellas.
We're all in the blue corner.
Yeah,
There
come
is no
on,
red
we're
corner
gonna
in
get
here.
all- Where's our Senate candidates? We still know Mr. Crockett, right? Okay, come on. Okay, who's going to help me with the microphone over here? Who's my volunteer is going to help me with the microphone? This is your opportunity now to ask a question of any or all of these candidates here. Please approach the microphone over here, and we'll take you one at a time. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm a constituent here from Lafayette. I live right over there on Mud Avenue. This place was about 3 minutes away.
Okay.
And I didn't want to come, but I felt like I had to do my civic duty because I'm here representing a group of about 200 young people. Can I see real quick, who's under 30 in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4. And your parents didn't bring you.
Andrew, we're counting on you.
We're disillusioned with the system.
I know.
We're not in here.
I know, you need to bring them.
We don't believe that voting will change anything anymore. And I've met some of you guys in person, and I'm really, really optimistic about that, but I'm constantly fighting leftists that think we need to burn this whole thing down. So I'm here to ask you a one-word question. AIPAC.
No. 100% no. Hell no.
Excellent.
Hell no.
Thank you.
Hell no.
In addition to AIPAC, why do we allow corporations to give you guys money at all?
Citizens United, which needs to end.
Citizens United.
Correct.
Is that everyone on Citizens United?
No.
Okay. Y'all answered most of the questions that my group had. I have like 2 others. What will you do to, let me get her words right. Anything to stop the amassing of chemical and petrochemical plants on our coast? If so, what and what is to be done about the plants already there?
So that's community business accords that have to be made with those currently here. But there should be no expansion, especially into the carbon capture projects, until science has had a chance to catch up.
Excellent, thank you.
The event in Mississippi is really terrible, and we do not need to have our community suffering the same.
Thank you, Tia.
I agree with Tia 100%. The carbon capture issue is basically a scam where they took away all the Green Deal benefits from the Inflationary Reduction Act, and they kept the carbon capture for oil companies. This is back to givers and takers. We need to make these takers give.
Thank you, John. Caleb?
We just have to sum it all up. We have to make the House of Representatives a job that represents the people and not corporations.
Thank you.
And I think that the businesses that we need to invest in renewable energy here in Louisiana, because we have energy infrastructure in this state, and we know that climate change is real. We know that science is real, and we need to address that by bringing good union jobs to Louisiana by investing in renewable technologies of the future.
Thank you, Nick. Hey, Jamie.
And for me, it's sure enough for hell no with the CCS. I'm a farmer, and ain't let nobody come in and take my land. It's gonna be sure enough a fight. And when it comes to the petrochemicals, I think when they do dirty things, they need to be dealt dirty things, and they have to pay for the dirt that they leave on the floor. And so that's where I am with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you.
Andrew, before you leave, I just want to point out to you that I don't know whether you've considered this, but you guys share that goal of burning everything down with MAGA. I know you have different goals in the end, but they want to burn the whole thing down too. So let's keep it.
We've discussed this a lot in the group that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And
I know you guys, y'all are great.
all of this left and right stuff is a vast facade perpetrated
We
on
can
us
talk
by
about that later,
oligarchs.
but yeah, I just want, but they wanted to burn the whole thing
Yeah.
down too. And you
It is
see
up
things
versus
done.
down. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Could I add just one thing to that? Could I add one thing? Because I think this is important for young people, and something that I'm committed to is just talking about what our offices do, right? And what the United States Senate does. And one of the things has to be accountability for the executive branch. But also, to your question, one of the most important things that the Senate does is provide rejection or approval of judicial nominees. And the Supreme Court just overturned coastal settlements against oil companies, and that is completely out of line. And it goes to show that the Senate is not holding the executive branch accountable, and it's not doing its duty and oversight to approve judges that have the best interests of Louisiana in mind. So I wanted to add that as well.
I'm sorry, Nick, did they turn it over or did they send it to federal court? I think they took it out of Louisiana court.
That's right. Yeah, they took it out of the state court and brought it into federal court, where it should remain in state court because state courts are the ones. Louisiana is the one being affected by these coastal issues that oil companies are causing, and so that's where the suit should remain, and not in federal courts with judges, all over the country.
Right. Thank you. I just want to make that correction. Go ahead.
My name is Monica Murphy. I live in Baton Rouge. And this is in regards to abortion. Everybody who spoke on it talked about women's bodily autonomy, and it's a medical issue and all that good stuff. The conversation with the doctor, although I think Caleb did mention with your spiritual advisor. So for the Republicans, it's a moral issue. It's a life. We're saving a life, right? So how do you respond to the Republicans who are saying, well, it's not because you're gonna, have low blood pressure and whatever other issues come with pregnancy, but it's a life in there, and you can't harm that. So how do you counter that? You can't just say, well, it's, because they don't believe it's a medical issue. I mean, they don't believe, they think it's a moral issue.
John, go ahead.
I know how I countered it. My partner, who had an ablation, and I learned, Jamie, as much as I could, I promise. My partner who had an ablation would have died from essentially a DNC, a forced abortion that she needed to have because she was hemorrhaging. So I tell them that because it's science. It's your religious views as the rights of an American do not extend over my fence, and they do not extend over science, and they do not extend over the woman's right over her own body and full body autonomy for every American. So I didn't have to almost lose my partner to know that. But when I did, I'd be sure and remind anyone that wants to question it.
For me,
Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I just want to be totally clear about it. I mean, I'm not a guy that's going to even sit here and try to fake it with y'all. I leave all of the decisions up to the woman, because here it is. Ain't nobody telling me how to cut and do anything on my body. And the way I see it is, That woman's body is her body. No different than my truck outside. I bought it and I paid for it, but she was blessed to have that body, and I feel like it's hers to do with what she want to do with it, period.
So I think that if someone has a deeply held belief that they don't believe that abortion is right, then they have that choice to make that personally. But that should not be imposed on others by politicians making government decisions. And from a public policy perspective, I look at the evidence and I look at what works in terms of dignity and safety for everyone involved. And when we criminalize women and criminalize healthcare providers, it leads to situations that are dangerous for women, dangerous for their pregnancy. If there is not safe reproductive health care that is available, and that those decisions, if those are not left up to that woman, their healthcare provider, and if they so choose, their spiritual guide. So I completely respect anyone's deeply held personal belief, but that should not be imposed on others through public policy.
All right. So I believe in a separation of church and state. All religions belong in the home. And I also believe that the life of the child I brought into this world has value and she needs to be respected. If anything were to happen to her medically that she would require it, I would expect the same grace to be given to anyone and their daughter. So the separation of church and state is a must.
Well, I am a person that has a very strong connection with my father. However, what we do have to realize is that there are 9 other commandments on the 10 Commandment list, and we can't just prioritize one as being the top tier sin against God. We have to step back sometime and allow God to be God and allow people to be people. Because at the end of the day, we have to support the women's rights.
And I will add one thing. I'm going to break the rules of moderators because I have a microphone and I am a mother, okay? I will say that I would err on the side of science. We see how pseudoscience is affecting us right now. We have,
But they don't care about science because this
They
is a
have-
life.
right, but we
this is
have
a
to-
life, a
this-
child of God. I mean, it's
this
bullshit.
is something
but
we need to be concerned about as well. We have flu epidemics. We're threatened with the return of polio. This falls in that same category, right? There is a time when abortion should be legal, right? Okay, so we need to tackle this as well. We need to tackle this whole avalanche of pseudoscience, which is damaging our lives. So thank you for that question.
Hi, my name is Sharon German, and I live in Youngsville. And it's so funny that Tia mentioned the absolute separation of church and state, because that is the first thing on my list. I totally respect everyone's right to practice whatever religion they choose. I was raised Catholic, but I'm an atheist, have been since I was about 8. And the only reason I went along with it that long was because when you were 7, you got to dress like a bride and get presents. But with a simple caveat that you don't ever try to pass laws based on anyone's individual religion. And it sounds like everybody agrees with that. Yeah. So I'll take that as a yes from you folks. Also, though, I want no religion in public schools whatsoever. Again, that's part of the same issue. But I don't want any vouchers for religious schools or private schools coming out of my pocket.
Don't forget about the charter schools, too. They come The charter schools, they fund them.
Yeah, anything that, you know, is going to teach religion or is, you know, outside of just public education. I want good, strong public education and, you know, free from any other distractions, no voucher programs. It sounds like you're already all agreed to not accepting any APAC money. Just as a warning, I read the other day that they're already changing the names of those super PACs so that they don't sound like it's money coming from Israel, but it is. So I'm going to be monitoring that very, very closely, and I'm going to see where you're getting your money from. Okay, just.
Please do.
Can I speak on where we getting our money from? I can speak on mine.
Okay.
I've had well over 15,000 contributions, and every penny of it came from people that look just like us.
Excellent.
15s and 20s and 5s, and I've even had some $1. So I know what you mean, and what I love about that is individuals see something in a candidate that gives them the hope to want to fight again.
That's right.
And that's what I love about it. And the other thing that I will share, you feel good when you have that many people get behind your campaign. And to me, that gives you the viability to know that when it's time to stand up against the Republicans, that we're ready to go to fight.
Yep.
Because it's going to be a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to respond to that? Okay. Nick?
Well, I just say that I've committed to not take APAC money or corporate PAC money. Like I said, we need to root out corruption in government. You know, I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Alliance for Good Government. And to your point on public schools, you know, I'm a huge supporter of public schools. I've got 3 boys that are all in the public school system in New Orleans. And you're right, our public schools should be places that are invested in. All of our resources need to be focused on funding our public schools, because when we come together as a community and we're all bought in to a public school system that serves every child and it gives every child the opportunity to succeed and to thrive, then we're able to do what's necessary to advance in our communities. And so I just strongly believe in that, and so I'm grateful for your advocacy on that.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
all of my contributions have been from small local donors. Actually nationwide, I have some groups that have picked me up in California and New York that are supporting the run. So
As long as it's not coming from a lobbyist,
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
yeah, and I've also been endorsed by a For the Future Victory Fund, and I've become a signatory on the Take Back Congress PAC. So that one, it has priorities to end Citizens United,
Yes.
stop stock trading,
Yes, end
enact
Citizens
term
United.
limits, things like that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for you have more?
I've got a couple more, but they're yes and no. They
Okay.
don't even have to
Go ahead.
respond if they don't want to. Can I just have a yes or no that you will fight to expand the Supreme Court as soon as we can?
Yes.
Okay, all right, because such corruption, and we need to put in ethics regulations for them, which don't exist now for some unknown reason. Okay, we've already talked about the ICE funding. I think everybody's in place to get rid of ICE. Okay, and I think they've already answered this one too about eliminating the must end Citizens United.
Yes, absolutely.
And then just as no more questions, but just as I do believe AI needs regulation. I
Yes.
think you all agreed with that.
Yes.
And as far as the universal health care issue is, I got to tell you, Medicare is the best health insurance I've ever had. Why not just Medicare for all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having this so that we can find out. The last election we had, we didn't really have any organized thing that I was aware of. And thank you all for running. Thank you for putting yourself out there, putting your lives on hold to really fix this mess. Thank you.
And thank you for coming. Go ahead with your question.
I do have a question, but I first wanted to thank all the candidates for being here and thank you all for being here. We're also, the Lafayette Parish Democrats are having a forum in New Iberia on the 25th. That's next Saturday from 5 to 8. You have a chance to see all of the candidates again, and I look forward to seeing you all there. So my question, I wasn't going to ask a question, but Nick, you talked about us being at a sort of inflection point and then, the job ahead being to heal. And so I decided I was going to write a question. So for context, I want to start by sharing that I was raised in church, steeped in Sunday school, won Bible trivia championships as a kid, and founded the Christian Club in high school. And I spent my late teens studying to be a youth pastor until I was exiled from church for my sexuality. So my path led away from the church, and I have sort of rediscovered an understanding of God through sobriety, but I still am very much aware of what Christianity is supposed to be. What I see masquerading as Christianity these days is reminiscent of scenes that I saw at the Holocaust Museum in DC when I visited. It's hellfire and brimstone policymaking these days for anyone that's not white, cisgender, heterosexual, and Christian. And it's cheers for nuclear war to usher in Armageddon, simply because Iran is predominantly Muslim brown people. So I'd like to hear from you guys on how you think we can heal as a nation. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how we reinforce the First Amendment against this sort of rampant fascism that we're seeing, and finally separate the church from the state like it always should have been to sort of differentiate Christians from the Christian nationalists.
Wow, we only have 30 minutes left. Do you want all of them to respond to all of that?
It's really just more separation of church and state. I know they had two before, but,
all right.
but generally, yeah.
Go ahead, guys. Who wants to take it?
So I can start. So I think that in order to heal our nation, we do have to confront Christian nationalism, which is a dangerous ideology that, in my view, perverts true Christianity. Because the Christianity that I know is about Jesus, and Jesus is teaching to love your neighbor. It's the teaching to care for the person on the side of the road, the Good Samaritan reaching out to the person who is struggling. It's Matthew 25 that says, whatsoever you did to the least of these, you did for me. So the Christianity that I know is a Christianity of inclusion. But no matter your religious beliefs or if you purely come at this from a humanistic standpoint, the government should not be involved in any way in propagating one religion over another. The government should be about securing and protecting equal rights under the law and ensuring that we all have the opportunity to meet our highest potential, to be able to thrive in our communities. And I think that the way that we get out of this, the way that we heal, is by recognizing, as I started, that every person has dignity. Every person has the right to their beliefs. Let's zoom out. We saw recently this Artemis mission and some of the astronauts reflecting on looking at the Earth. We are out here in the middle of the universe, or not really in the middle, we're in a corner of the universe trying to figure things out, trying to make it day by day, struggling to form a human community that is more humane, that is more caring, that is developing in the right direction. And so I think that we need to get back to that basic sense of humanity and dignity and come together in person so that we're not broken out into these silos and divided, because I think that that's what billionaires want. They want to extract and exploit division for gain. And so that's what I'm going to do in the United States Senate is work to protect everyone's rights and to take into consideration that everyone has dignity and we need to come together as a community.
Thank you.
So God has never forced himself upon someone. God allows you to open your heart up to him for you to receive him. I do think it should be separated because we are going to D.C. to handle the people's business. That's better?
Yes.
All right. Where was I at? Oh, going to D.C. to handle the people's business. However, the Bible does talk about you judge someone by their fruit. Eventually, if God wants you or is leading you, you would know it. But we shouldn't exile anyone just because of their sexual orientation. So if I am selected, I will most definitely separate church and state.
Thank you.
I don't think we're ever going to see a day where people don't try to insinuate their religion into our legislative processes, honestly.
Yeah.
We are all individuals, and whatever is most prominent in our minds will be what we go into these situations for. So this is a reason your vote is essential. Everyone's vote is going to determine who we're sending, who can separate those things in their mind and really do what's best for Matt or for Tia or for Shyla and Casey, my babies who are here in the audience. So that's what we need to do. Determine who you think is level-headed enough to focus on the greater good and everyone's humanity.
Thank you.
Where my view on it is, when you're talking about sending one United States Senator to Washington, D.C., the only way we heal this country is the country has to heal as a whole. One person from Louisiana can't heal the nation, but what one person from Louisiana can do is start a conversation that gives people hope. The next thing that person can do is show people love. And the only way that a nation can heal is when you have like-minded individuals that are elected to the same office with a majority. Because you can send one loving person to try to heal a country, but if he don't have the ability to make the laws reflect that love, it won't happen. So it takes a nation to get fed up with all of this crap, that the hatred that the Republicans are spewing on us. And I want to ask another question because I like asking questions. How many in this room are financially able that if you decided you didn't want to, you didn't have to get up and go to work? Raise your hand if you ain't got to go to work. Okay, that is great. I am so glad that y'all are doing that well. But there is a whole lot more of us that got to go to work, and that's the way the nation looks. So if you got to go to work, I can promise you that Republican Party don't care about you one iota at all. They are concerned about conserving their way and their way only. And until we vote them out, we won't change this country. And I'm not saying these things to be negative. I just believe those are the facts. We have to vote in a way that reflects the people, and that's how we change this nation.
Thank you.
I'd like to dovetail on what Jamie just said. For those of you that raised your hands that don't go to work every day, I see your retirement. I see the hard-earned work and the Medicare and the Medicaid and the Social Security that you put in money to that is your right.
Yes.
All right? Now, to answer Matt's question, okay, Christian nationalism is bad, full stop. Pete Kegsbreath just actually made the, he kicked out the Catholics. Y'all remember when Catholics, like no dogs, no Irish, no Catholics, like, and all of a sudden the Catholics were like, we're too, and now they're kicking them back out. You got to watch these folks, all right? Now, how you heal, I want to answer your question directly. How we can heal, I'll use Jesus' example, okay? Jesus gave people hope. He came here to give hope We are trying to build hope for change now. Now, as to the law, the people that use that against you and many other people, the same law that they use to kick Matt out of church, they ignore the part where you're supposed to kill people that eat shrimp and sell your daughter for a fair price, okay? So they pick and choose. In the New Testament, Jesus was a fan of immigrants. Jesus was a fan of the lowly, the downtrodden, the least among us, the people that, when you spit on them when you walk by, for those people that spit on people. That's who Jesus said we need to give hope. But I don't need any of that in my secular law. And I don't need to read the Bible to know that I need to love my neighbor. And hear the difference between the Democrats sitting at this table and some of the Republicans we've talked about today is we are us.
Yes.
We are all us. We don't call it them. They are the party of us and them. And when it comes down to what and how to treat your neighbor using Jesus' example or just using a secular example of loving your neighbor, remember, it is your duty as an American to fight for your neighbor, not because, but especially if they look different from you, if they believe different from you. Your duty is to fight for their right to believe differently, and I think that's something we forgot, and I think that's something that everybody on this stage knows.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Can I add one other little thing to that? And I don't want to take people to church because, you know, since we've been on the road, I haven't been to service a whole lot myself, but I do remember this in the scripture, and I can't remember the verses. But when they came to prosecute Jesus, do y'all remember? They brought somebody to pick him out because he looked just like we all do. He looked just like the people that he was surrounded around. He didn't look like those Washington politicians that are millionaires and billionaires. They wouldn't even come in this room with us. So the one thing that I will say to that is that in order for us to do what we need to do, we may all have different views on small things, but for the most part, we all have the same issues. And we have to look past those small issues for a greater good for all of us. And that's what I'll leave with you.
Your question, darling?
Hi, yeah, I'm Melanie Champagne from, I'm short, so I had to
Well, you're
get it.
tiny but fierce, aren't you?
From Lafayette. So my questions kind of are related to some of the previous ones, but I stood in line and mine have a different focus. So we know that you guys are in alignment with the fact that you guys are for women's choice and obviously for public education, but more specifically, if you were given 30 seconds to make a good, strong argument for why the democratic principles that we all subscribe to, particularly possibly with social programs, or in fact, the moral ground, if you had to convince them for just bullet points on why that is actually the moral ground and that is how we keep people alive and healthy and with dignity. And secondly, your few-second bullet point arguments for not just public ed, which I know we all support, but more specifically, your thoughts on why public ed is an absolute essential and whether or not you would be in favor of charter schools.
Who wants to start?
Give me the first part again, Melanie, real quick.
Yeah,
Just the
so
first-
we
I got the second part on public
No,
ed.
for sure, yeah. So we live, whether or not we like it, we live in a pro-life state. Sure. And so our job is to convince people.
I'm sorry. We live in an anti-abortion state.
For sure.
Sure, okay. So how would you convince people who do subscribe to a pro-life argument, how would you convince them, change their mind specifically that you, in fact, are in favor, not just for the mother's life, but how democratic principles help children, and that you actually are the person who is pro-all life?
I'll jump in. I think the first difference is between, you got to meet people where they're at. If you want their vote, if you want their support, if you want them to understand where you're coming from, you have to meet people where they're at. So yeah, it's a difference of language, and I think the difference in language is actually where the conversation is. I think if you attack or challenge someone's pro-life stance on how they feel about paid child care, how they feel about adoption, how they feel about the foster care system, how they feel about CASA, and all of these things for these children caught up in our system that are going to get drugged down with anchors. That's the first way to open that question. I've found some experience in opening that question. I also share, and I encourage you to share, any medical stories that you know of, have consent to share, and are comfortable with. Because people identify with individual stories. My wife and partner almost died. Her cousin, his mom. These are things that, oh, really? It's not just something on the news. It gets you into the conversation. So first get into the conversation about pro-life and anti-abortion. Like Dr. Sally said, nobody walks in 30 weeks pregnant and says, you know what? I just decided whatever. That doesn't normally happen. I'm not going to take away, again, right in Jamie's lane, not my lane. But these are sensible issues that most people understand. These draconian laws are what we're fighting. The ability for women to take care of their health care in a responsible way is what we're fighting for. And as far as public education, I'll be real quick. Public education is the foundation. Thank you to Tia and every other teacher in this room. The foundation of what it takes to make America the country we all want it to be, to give these kids a fighting chance. And by the way, we can take a little bit of that ICE money I keep talking about and feed these damn kids lunch. I mean, darn kids.
Oh, I was gonna go. Well, first what we have to do is we have to go back to the golden rule. And the golden rule is treat everyone the way that you want to be treated. That'll sum up everything for that one. And as far as the public school go, I am with you. We have to stop funneling our public school money to go into the back doors of the charter school and make it as if it's okay. It's not. And yes, the public education is the foundation of our society. The children are literally our future. So I think that protecting the public schools is like my biggest priority.
Raise your hand if you just heard that song in your head.
What song? Okay. All right, so as I had stated earlier, if my daughter is in a traumatic situation and needs health care, I am going to choose the baby I brought into this world rather than some unknown that may or may not be viable. And imagining things like that happening, even if they're not a direct narrative experience, can make people reflect on what they would do in those situations. So that is how I've approached it and gotten good response in other speeches and other public, contexts than this. Public schools, I've taught in public schools for more than 20 years, and they have really transformed the opportunities, although they are not at an equitable level still for some neighborhoods. And we all know where those are. They're on the north side of Lafayette, the north side of Lake Charles, the north side of Baton Rouge. It's all these north side areas in our cities, for whatever reason, that are underserved, underfunded, and under-resourced. Now that's getting worse with the expansion of for-profit schools, which are not ideal, but not all charter systems are that way. There are niche little charter schools that have a Montessori program that some parents prefer. I do think that those have a purpose and a place, but we don't need to broadly expand them like we're doing with CSUSA here in Lafayette and across Louisiana and across Florida. Those cookie cutter schools that are popping up do not deserve our tax dollars. They are not serving our public in a way that is equitable, and they can refuse students if they work around the loopholes.
For me, if I'm having a conversation with someone that's pro-life and hardcore pro-life. I want to talk around that conversation to see just how much pro-life are they, because I want to know whether or not they support the death sentence. Because a life is a life, whether it's in a fetus or somebody has committed a crime that, not all crimes, and somebody that maybe has done something bad, that person has a life also. And so once I noticed that it's not a policy thing and that they are truly about the life of a baby, well, then we can have a conversation. And that conversation will be centered around who's that mother. And because with that mother, if you're going to force that mother to have a baby, then somebody needs to be willing to support that mom, all the way down to the point to where there's going to be child care, to health care, to every bit of it. Because if a woman is forced to bring a life to this world, then she needs to be supported with that life. And that's, you can't have it two ways. And you can see how the Republicans are cutting all the social services. So you can't expect people to force them to have a baby and then you want to cut the SNAP benefits and no child care and no nothing. So that's the fight that we're in right now.
And I think that we need to reframe this discussion because, look, 70% of Americans support the protections of Roe v. Wade. 70%. And we need to fight for terms and what they really mean, because pro-life should mean that we're fighting to reverse Medicaid cuts. How can Republicans stand there and say that they're pro-life when they're cutting Medicaid to the tune of $1 trillion? How can Republicans say they're pro-life when they're cutting SNAP benefits? How can Republicans say they're pro-life when they're not supporting maternal health coverage? So these are the things that we need to prioritize and we need to continue to talk about. And also as it relates to public schools. We need to invest in Pell Grants, in our HBCUs, in our universities, and in our K through 12 system. Because all of these things we can and should do when we demand that billionaires pay their fair share. And that's what I'm going to do in the United States Senate.
Thank you.
Okay.
I forgot my half of the education part of it. And I'm sorry that I got kind of a little worked up in the whooping them Republicans. But where I am on education, I come from a rural place that when you give charter schools vouchers and you give kids vouchers to go to a private school, you killing a school in a rural parish that's a single high school in a single parish, and then you give the best kids at those schools vouchers to go to some private school because they play basketball really well, baseball really well, or they run track really fast. And then you leave the rest of the kids that are not just the great students at the public school. Well, now the school looks kind of like this auditorium. It's getting thin, and the numbers are not adding up. And it's basically killing small rural parishes. That's why I don't like those vouchers that are, and another thing, and I think Tia alluded on this part of it, that when you have special needs students, they can look over those kids, and that is just wrong. So that's why all of our tax dollars need to stay in the public school system.
Thank you. Now, let me ask we only have 5 or 6 minutes left before we do closing remarks, so please keep your questions concise and as simple as possible, okay? We'd like to get to all of you. Can we collect them all? I'm sorry? Collect all the questions? We don't really have time for that. I think it would take as much time as working through the 2 or 3 we have left. Just be as concise as you can. Is that okay?
Yeah, all right.
Oh,
My
yeah,
name-
y'all
my-
too. Y'all too.
My name is Johnny Jones. Johnny Jones, yes. I stay in Ornerville. I hear y'all talking. I hear what y'all saying. But we've heard this before. I heard it before. Once you get in office, it's a different story. Okay, let me ask you a question. To run for political office, you have to have certain qualifications. You can't be a criminal, you can't have felonies, you can't have this and that. But we have that right now as a president. But what I'm saying is this. What can y'all do, or what can the people do to get some kind of laws in place that if somebody is doing something, if they're an elected official and they're doing something that's not right, how can you get them out of there? I mean, not just don't say that you can go out and vote them out or this and that. I mean, if they're not for the people,
Thank
not
you, Mr.
just
Jones.
certain people, but for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I would just say we just have to come together as Congress and revamp some of the old regulations that we've had for 200 years to focus on, like if they are acting up in Congress, hey, the law says da 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 da, and we'll get them out of there.
Okay, but if the law is there, why is it not being used?
Because the Republicans aren't enforcing it.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. Every single person on this panel, we have to change. We need the power. We don't have any power. If we go up there and we don't flip the House blue, if we don't flip the Senate blue, we can try. We can do bills, we can vote, we can be the most exciting thing on C-SPAN. But until we get power, until we take the House and God willing take the Senate, we won't be able to do anything. I'm sorry, that's the frank answer. But when we do, when you vote, hold us accountable. Gather your people, gather your churches, gather your community centers. Watch who gets elected. Watch where they get their money.
Hey, John.
Okay.
John, you know what it sounds like Mr. Jones is asking all of us? Will we impeach Trump if we win?
It's not just that. It's not just that. You had Trump, and then you had a woman running for president.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of people say they would never vote for a woman president. What you telling your mama, your sister, your grandmother, whoever, whatever, that you wouldn't vote for a woman for president? Not trying to get in your business, but who did y'all vote for?
Mr. Jones, you're absolutely right, but that's on us. That's on us. We have half the people who are in office right now because a lot of us didn't go out and vote. So that's on us.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, I am Narika Ross. I waited a while, so I really would like to ask these two questions, please. Okay. First, as a veteran, thank you both for your service. As a parent, I'm concerned about my child's future and the growth of data centers. What would you do to protect resources and reduce climate impacts from data centers as they expand? And my second question, as a mother of a daughter with autism, childcare and pre-K costs are too high, and support services can be hard to access. What would you do to lower costs and improve support for families with children with special needs?
Can y'all get to that?
I'll jump in because I'll be quick.
Yeah.
Number one, data centers. They need to be regulated. There is some argument for the fact that AI is not going away. That doesn't mean we need to roll over and let it take over our towns, resources, and rural communities, suck up the water, and destroy our environment. So regulation is the key. You must have people that represent you, that bring your concerns to the bodies that govern these regulatory agencies. Second, child care for all, period. Child care for all. And we're the richest country in the world. You go up there, you cut a little ice money, you take the big, beautiful bill, you swing it like that, and there's really plenty of money.
But you say childcare for all. However, children like my daughter with autism, it's not the same. So I'm asking specifically for children with special needs.
Special needs children need to have the tools that they
What would you do?
What would I do?
Yes.
Is make dependent children available to a federal law. So you basically, are they a protected class already? That's the first thing we have to establish. If autistic children can be a protected class, we need to look into legislating and codifying those protected classes. In addition to that, you can extend the ages for what is normal children allowed to this. There's 504. My daughter has 504
Excuse me, one second. I would ask Tia as an educator on the panel first to address what is the status now. I know that some of the funding for special needs in general has been cut. Can you speak to this briefly?
I would hate for people to piggyback off her answer. I want to see what other candidates have to offer first, because I would hate for her to provide a great answer and they use her answer in their response. So I just would like for everybody to continue.
Okay. I was just trying to see if anybody would have a different
understand.
answer.
I know.
Because
So,
we're trying to get to the other people who've been waiting.
I got you, but I want to see what they bring to the table.
Quickly on your data center question, I believe that data centers should be answered and dealt with in the local communities in which they're being placed. I believe that data centers should pay their own bills. I think they should pay their fair shares. I think data centers shouldn't be building communities and then the community's utilities rise. As far as with your daughter's autism, I believe that's why I don't believe in those vouchers for schools, because I can imagine that your baby has to go to regular public school and can't go to charter schools. But here it is. We have had autistic children since we've been here. And autistic children basically needs more attention. They need more staff, they need more teachers, they need more everything around them to mold and find their niche, because people look at autistic children that may not know, but they are literally brilliant, because where they may have a deficiency in one area, their senses and knowledge are that much more stronger in others. And it takes staff and qualified teachers to do that. And that's why teachers need to be paid more. That's why teachers are the most important job and career on the face of this earth, because they mold our babies when we cannot.
Does anybody have anything different to say?
So the thing that I'll say, first of all, thank you for your service as a veteran. And I hear your pain and your concern for your daughter. And I believe that a fully funded education system is a system that funds special education, because we need to have differentiated learning for students who have different needs. And a system that is funded at the level that's necessary will fund special education teachers, will fund the appropriate class sizes. And so I really do believe that it comes back to funding, to specialized training that is in line with best evidence-based practices. On the data centers, I'll say that we need regulation, and we need to demand that companies pay their fair share, and that it ensures that anything that it is put in place as it relates to energy generation is done through clean energy, and in a way that makes sure that AI companies, that these AI data centers are not polluting our air, our water, and sucking energy out of communities. Any project has to be done with the community's buy-in, support, and approval.
So just to let you know, it's pretty much
Caleb, into the microphone, babe.
just pretty much the same, but like with the Gator grants, that definitely could be used for families to pay for after-school care. I have two nephews that have autism, and the type of care that they're needed is different. So we would have to get certified trainers in that area for autism to make sure that the childs are getting the best care that they need.
All right, now it's time to hear that great answer.
Yeah, now it's time to hear somebody who knows what's actually happening in this field.
Yeah, fortunately, or you know, the reality of our DOE isn't so great right now, but this diagnosable condition that makes students learn in an atypical manner is protected under IDEA. What we need are to enforce those protections from the Department of Ed level, and to offer incentives to preparation programs, because that's where it starts. All teachers need to learn to interact and serve students with atypical learning, because every child is atypical. There are no normal children. Typically expressive students get traditionally trained teachers who are not prepared when they go into a classroom with them. That should be happening more regularly. We need the preparation programs to respect that and to get specific guidance from DOE. Just like I can go and find workbooks that give me guidance that is very complete and sound on English learners, we need to have those same types of resources available for teachers to download and read and self-develop in regards to other conditions that we run into in the classroom. As far as data centers, I think Louisiana's land has been ravaged enough. I think that we don't need any more cancer alleys. We don't need any more Mossvilles. So I am against them being here, period. I think that we could all do some sharing if they want to have, this development come up. We have taken the brunt of the energy industry's pollution, which we still need addressing. And I don't think that we need to move any further into this until we've resolved some of that.
Thank you.
And I'll go on the record to say that the entire nation needs an attitude adjustment, because this whole business about the dissing of abilities when people are just different than outside of the bell curve needs to be addressed as a nation. Thank you for your question. Last question.
I'll go quick. I'm Brandy King. I live in Lafayette. And we've heard a lot of very similar answers. I think that on the hardline questions, you guys are all kind of on the same page. What I'm looking for is a differentiator. So my question is, how do you plan, what's your strategy on working with Republicans instead of against them? You have all vowed to fight for us, but we've seen what happens whenever we're kind of at a stalemate. Whenever you're both kind of on either side of the aisle and nobody's willing to compromise. So what are your strategies?
So being in the military, we had one uniform, and being in the military, we had one uniform, and we all fought for one thing. So all it is sending someone like myself to unify the country and be able to work with Republicans to get our country back to where it should be. And I think it's just that simple, just working with each other.
You have to go in knowing that deep down, everyone there went there initially for the same reason. They all went there because they hoped to do something good. Having an open mind, knowing that they have not done good, but just approaching it as the issue that you're dealing with. If we are going to fund public schools, what benefit does that give their district where they are elected? Starting with how it helps them to help everyone else is a way to turn a corner with a lot of them. And just for them to know that you are not going to go in with a lit stick of dynamite ready to go off on them. We have to come together, we have to collaborate, and we'll have to compromise sometimes, though that doesn't have to be on human dignity.
I'll finish off with the Congressional and then let the Senate go. When I'm out trying to remember my pawpaw who taught me what a Democrat was, I'm reminded that he built roads and bridges, and that's what I'm going to have to do. And so what I do is I came up with something very simple, very understandable. Please, in your own conversations, candidates, please take this from me. Please take it. It fricking works. All right? I look people in the eye and I ask them, I'd like you to tell me what you identify as most. And then I say, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Or are you an American? Now, I have only found asking that question probably around 1,500 times so far, 2 people that answered. Ironically, one of each. And sitting here trying to earn the Democratic primary vote, I think carefully about what I'm about to say. In order to do what you're asking us to do, in order to make the changes that we want to make, that you want to see, we are going to have to go up there. Sure, we'll have a little pin that says Democrat, but we are going to have to go up there and represent the people of Louisiana and the people of the 3rd Congressional District, because it's not all black and white. Every issue isn't a party issue one way or the other, and it's our job to go in, learn what they're trying to push down our throats, come back here and tell us about it. Learn what everybody else up here really wants with data centers and education and healthcare and insurance, and talk to the people and give them a forum and a way to get to their congresspeople. And then we got to take that message back to Congress to work with all the other Americans that are there to do the exact same thing.
My thoughts on working with Republicans, it's no different than living my everyday life. I work in the industry of agriculture, and most all of the farmers are Republican. So when I go to buy chemicals, I'm dealing with Republicans. When I go to buy fuel, I'm dealing with Republicans. I'm tired of Republicans asking me, why am I a Democrat? So the way I would handle a situation where I need Republicans to vote with me to pass a bill for us is I will go and I will identify those senators that I can have a conversation with. And I can take them to lunch, and we can find those things that we have in common, whether it's going bass fishing or going deer hunting, because that's what Republicans do. You invite them out to the farm to go dove hunting. And when you identify those things that you have that are alike, that's when you can build allies with those kind of Republicans. And then that's how you ask for the state of Louisiana. That's how I see getting this done. And that's why I believe that I'm the candidate that can win this race statewide, because my life that I've lived and all of the lived experiences come with dealing with those doggone Republicans.
So thank you for this question. I think it's a good one to end on. You know, for me, this is not abstract. It's very real. And I have a philosophy and an acronym. It's LEAD. Listen, engage, act, deliver. So whenever I go into a community or talk to someone, I want to listen first. And as I've been on the campaign trail, there have been times when I've talked to Republicans. They'll say, you know, oh, I'm supporting Cassidy, I'm supporting Letlow, I'm supporting Fleming. But I keep talking and I keep listening, and I talk about how I'm working to fight for the people. I talked about it in my closing earlier. We all desire the same things. We want clean air and clean water. We want good schools. We want health care. We want jobs that pay a living wage. We want opportunity. We want our kids to be able to stay here if they so desire. And so it's talking about those shared values and digging a step deeper, where they recognize that the current administration and current leadership is not delivering on those things. And again, for me, this is not abstract. So we talk about differentiation. The thing that I tell people is, look, I'm ready to go on day one. When I worked for Governor Edwards, we had Republicans that were the majority in the House and the Senate. And I was part of the team that worked to solve the budget crisis. And we were in a special session that was going till midnight, working the House floor to get votes to pass the earned income tax credit, to put more money in the hands of working people. And that hasn't stopped since I left the administration. When I've worked for Volunteers of America, we work to promote services for people like veterans, people with substance use disorder, people who are struggling with homelessness. It's these issues that unite people, recognizing how we can come together. And when these Medicaid cuts were coming through Congress, we created a coalition called the CARE Coalition. And we went to the state legislature and said, let's pass a resolution that tells Congress that we here in Louisiana are opposed to these Medicaid cuts. Now, y'all know we have supermajority Republican representation in the state House and state Senate. And does anyone want to guess what the vote on that resolution was in the Senate? It passed unanimously. And in the state House, it passed overwhelmingly. I want to say there were maybe 7 no votes. But that sent a message to Congress that Louisiana did not want these Medicaid cuts. And I wrote this resolution. I authored it. You know, a Republican state senator, Patrick McMath, was the one who actually introduced it. And Hakeem Jeffries read that resolution, or referenced that resolution, on the House floor when he was denouncing the Medicaid cuts. And so for me, this isn't something that's abstract. It's something I've put into practice, and it's something that I will continue to fight for in the United States Senate. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, Tia, you have anything to say?
I had gone too, but I liked Jamie's answer a whole lot.
Okay, everybody's gone? Okay. Well, good. Let's give a hand to the candidates. Thank y'all so much.